Hi, I'm Cory Driver, and this is Moving Forward. So I'm very excited. It is year A, summertime. So that means we've got several months of the Gospel of Matthew ahead of us. And I love the Gospel of Matthew. It's my very favorite. Everybody's got their own. Matthew's mine. Why? Because it presents Jesus as the master teacher he is. So Matthew has these series of long dialogues, Jesus teaching, telling parables, telling stories, and it is just recorded in all its glory, Jesus teaching. And so we're going to spend the next several months on that, but this Sunday we start at the end. Matthew 28, Jesus is bidding farewell. He has been resurrected, and he meets the disciples on a certain mountain in the Galilee, and he tells them, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey all my commandments." And then says, why? Because all authority on heaven and earth has been given to Jesus. And so he gives his disciples those three tasks. And if you notice, he gives his disciples those three tasks. And so we do not get to exempt ourselves from any of those three tasks. All of us are invited to make disciples. And I think this is a beautiful thing. It's not just clergy, or it's not just professional folk, or it's not people who have it all together who are to be discipling others. But everybody knows something about God, knows how to take care of the neighbor, or knows something beautiful that they can teach their neighbors. And so I invite us during this time to take Jesus seriously and invite us all to disciple somebody in something that we know. How better to be a beloved community than to share the gifts and the knowledge we have, and to accept that from other people. Just because we're discipling somebody doesn't mean we don't also need to be discipled. And so I think there's this beautiful reciprocity that Jesus invites, commands us to participate in, to be learners, to look like folk who do things well. So does your neighbor teach Bible well? Great. Learn Bible with that person. Does your neighbor take care of other neighbors well? Great. Let's learn how to do that and practice. Discipling is not just getting some head knowledge, but it's learning to inhabit practices of somebody. So we're going to spend the next several months learning how to inhabit the practices of Jesus and how to bear good fruit as his disciples. That's going to come up again and again and again. And we're going to think on what it means to be a baptized community. We, presumably, most folk, have been baptized into the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. And if you haven't, I invite you to talk to somebody about that, because that would be a great thing to do. But for those who have already been baptized, what does it mean to live into that baptismal calling of God's claim on our lives? God has exercised some ownership, has made a gracious claim and said that we are God's dearly beloved children. And so how do we live into that? And how do we live our lives according to that truth? And then finally, Jesus says, and I don't ever remember this growing up in the Great Commission, but Jesus says that we're to teach ourselves and others to obey his commandments. That obey bit I never got emphasized when I was hearing about this, but that's the truth of the matter. Jesus says that we are to obey his commandments. Which commandments? What commandments? We're going to spend months, get excited, looking at what Jesus is commanding people. And it's not just two, like you might think. So We are to make disciples, to baptize in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and to teach ourselves and others to obey Jesus' commandments, because all authority on heaven and on earth, in heaven and on earth, are his. He's the resurrected Lord, and just as he's leaving his disciples in Galilee, he gives them the Great Commission that we, even us, even in 2020, are invited to live into as well. And I think that is really good news. I can't wait to talk about it with y'all.